The chirps are the worst part. They are not the song of a finch, but the dry, sharp clicks of polished stones striking one another, a sound that promises dissection. Kale lies flat on the sandstone ledge overlooking the ravine, the coarse rock pressing a pattern into his chest. Below, 3 of them move through the acacia scrub, Deinonychus. They are not the lumbering titans of nightmare, but something far more terrifying, 1.5 meters of sinew, shadow, and malevolent intelligence, balanced on 2 legs. The sickle miner's claw on each inner toe, held high and away from the dirt, gleams like a sliver of obsidian. Their pack hunting is a marvel of predatory logic. They flow around obstacles, using a language of head bobs and tail flicks to coordinate. This is the brutal reality of prehistoric life. A live-action dinosaur documentary where the audience is also the prey. For 3 weeks, the Sunstone clan has been trapped. Their caves, a network of limestone hollows carved by an ancient river, are a fortress, but also a prison. The Deinonychus pack, 6 strong, has made its nest in a dense thicket at the mouth of the ravine. Now, every path to the open savanna, to the herds of iguanodon, to the berry bushes, is watched. The clan's snares are found sprung, the bait gone. Their hunters are stalked and driven back, not by brute force, but by a chilling, tactical precision that speaks of a mind far sharper than a reptile's ought to be. Hunger is a quiet guest in the caves now, gnawing at the strength of the 30 to ancient humans who call this rock home. Kale slides back from the edge, his movement as slow as a creeping vine. Inside the main cavern, the air is thick with smoke and fear. The fire, the heart of their world, casts flickering shadows on the faces of his people. He clutches his spear, a length of fire-hardened yew tipped with a shard of flint, its base weighted with the knuckle of a cave bear, a crude but lethal piece of osteoed ontocratic craft. It feels impossibly flimsy against the sickle claw. The eldest, her face a roadmap of seasons and sorrows, looks up as he enters. Her eyes, clouded with age, are still the sharpest in the clan. They still watch, Carol says, his voice a low rouse. Benno nods, her gaze sweeping over the gaunt faces of the others. They will not leave. Not while the eggs are in the nest. We have tried to wait. We have tried to fight. Their mind is one, and it is bent on our end. This is the core challenge of their hominid history, not just surviving, but outthinking a world that wants to devour them. Anna rises, her bones creaking like dry wood. She walks to the cave mouth, not to the main entrance, but to a smaller fissure that looks out from higher up the cliff face. From here, one can see the silver ribbon of the river that flows a half-day's walk to the north, and the deep, sun-beaten ravine the raptors call home. We cannot break them with spear or stone, she says, her voice carrying through the cavern. We do not fight the claw. We fight the ground beneath it. She turns, her dark eyes finding Kale, then every other adult. The river runs high in its banks from the rains. The earth between it and their nest is soft. If the river can carve this cave from stone, it can move sand and soil. The plan settles in the smoky air, audacious and terrifying, a flicker of humanity, of impossible, world-altering ambition, sparks in the darkness. They will not attack the dinosaurs. They will attack the world itself. The labor begins in the treacherous twilight before dawn, a time of ghosts and shifting shadows. The Sunstone clan moves not as a hunting party, but as a column of earth movers, their forms hunched and silent. This is a new kind of survival, a battle waged not with the sudden violence of the spear but with the grueling, agonizing persistence of will. They carry their ancient tools, pathetic instruments for reshaping a world. Shoulder blades from a long-dead triceratops serve as crude shovels, their surfaces worn smooth by a generation of use. Fire-hardened digging sticks break the compacted soil of the alluvial plain, and woven reed baskets, miracles of patient craft, carry away the earth. Their goal is a thin line scratched across the land, a channel less than a man's height deep, beginning at the river's sharpest bend and aimed like an arrow at the head of the Deinonychus ravine. It is a task of impossible scale, a testament to the unique madness of these early humans. High on the opposing ridge, a silhouette detaches itself from the rock. A single raptor, a sentinel. It stands motionless, its feathered profile sharp against the rising sun. It doesn't attack. It watches. It learns. This, more than the threat of a direct assault, chills them to the bone. The creature's stillness is a form of intelligence, a cold assessment. The clan is being studied. Kale organizes the diggers in a tight group, while two of the fastest runners, Mara and Sten, guard at the periphery, their eyes constantly scanning the scrubland. Their vigilance is the only shield they have. Days bleed into one another, measured by the rising and falling of the sun and the slow deepening of the trench. The work is a rhythm of agony. Muscles scream, hands crack and bleed, and the gnawing emptiness in their bellies becomes a constant companion. Their children, too weak to dig, are tasked with finding grubs and edible roots near the worksite. Their small forms darting between bushes under the watchful eyes of the elders. Every shadow sends a jolt of fear through the group. The chirping calls of the Deinonychus echo from the ravine at random intervals, a constant reminder of the price of failure. One afternoon, a juvenile raptor, driven by curiosity, creeps to the edge of the acacia line. Sten sees it first. He makes no sound, just a subtle hand gesture. The digging stops. 30 bodies freeze, becoming statues of mud and sweat. The young dinosaur cocks its head, its oversized eyes blinking slowly, taking in the bizarre scene of hominids carving up the earth. For a long, stretched moment, the future of human evolution hangs on the whim of a curious predator. Then, an adult calls from the ravine. A short, impatient chirp, and the juvenile melts back into the shadows. The breath held in 30 chests escapes as one silent, shuddering sigh. The emotional toll is as taxing as the physical. Doubt is a weed growing in the dark soil of their minds, and awe moves among them. Her presence a silent rebuke to their fear. She does not offer words of comfort, only points with a bony finger at the progress they have made, at the growing pile of displaced earth, at the river's shimmering bend, now tantalizingly close. Her foresight is their religion. This is the hard choice made manifest to gamble their last reserves of strength on a plan so audacious it borders on insanity, all while being watched by the very monsters they hope to destroy. When you listen to the river, do you hear only water, or do you hear the whisper of a weapon waiting to be aimed? The trench is their answer. The final wall of earth is all that separates the river from their desperate ambition. It stands barely a man's width, humming with the pressure of the current behind it. The clan is a gallery of ghosts, their bodies hollowed out by hunger and toil, their faces masks of dirt and grim determination. Below, in the ravine, the Deinonychus pack is agitated. They sense the subtle change in the world, the prolonged absence of the prey that lies in the cliffs. Their chirps have become more frequent, their patrols more aggressive. There is no more time. This moment is the hinge upon which their future, and perhaps a small, forgotten chapter of human evolution, will turn. Kale looks at his people. They are armed with their pathetic ancient tools, ready for one final act of creation and destruction. Now Anna whispers, her voice is dry as dust. Breaking the dam is the most dangerous task. It is a commitment, an irrevocable declaration of war. As the first shovels of bone strike the earthen wall, the raptors will know. Cal takes the lead, his triceratops shoulder blades shovel biting deep. Beside him, Sten and Mara strike in rhythm, their movements economical and fierce. It is an act of pure community, a machine of flesh and bone working as one. As they dig, 2 hunters break from the group, sprinting along the ridge, yelling and throwing stones towards the far side of the ravine. A desperate, almost certainly fatal, diversion. The sentinel raptor lets out a piercing shriek and gives chase, its sickle claws tearing at the air. The wall groans. A trickle of dark water seeps through. Then another. The sound is a death sentence and a promise. Tail, stem, and Mara work with a final, frenzied burst of energy. Suddenly, with a deep, liquid thump, the wall gives way. A torrent of brown water, cold and alive, explodes from the breach. It is no longer a river. It is a spear thrown by the hominid mind. It surges into the man-made scar on the landscape. A roaring, churning beast of their own making. As the water cascades into the ravine, a blur of feathered motion erupts from the scrub. One of the raptors, ignoring the diversion, has circled back. It leaps, a creature of impossible speed, not at Kale. But Sten, the man has no time to raise his spear. The sickle claw finds its mark, and Sten goes down with a cry that is swallowed by the roar of the flood. This is the brutal calculus of prehistory. Every victory is paid for in blood. The clan can only watch from the ridge as chaos consumes the ravine. The floodwaters hit the thicket with the force of a battering ram, tearing apart the carefully woven nest, sweeping away the precious eggs in a torrent of mud and debris. The shrieks of the Deinonychus are no longer the confident calls of hunters, but the panicked screams of creatures whose world is being annihilated. The water turns the ravine into a churning trap of death. The clan watches as the apex predators of their world are thrashed and broken by the very earth they commanded. By the time the sun sets, the flood has slowed to a muddy stream. The ravine is silent. The nest is gone. 3 of the 6 raptors lie broken and drowned among the debris. The survivors are scattered, their packs shattered, their territory destroyed. The Sunstone clan has won. They stand on the cliff edge, gazing at the devastation, their bodies aching, their hearts heavy with the loss of Sten, and they breathe the air of a world they have just remade. They do not celebrate. Victory in this ancient world is not a thing of joy, but of quiet, grim relief. They stand over the gouged earth, the silent witnesses to their own impossible act. They did not conquer the Deinonychus with sharper claws or stronger jaws. They defeated a nightmare by reshaping the bedrock of reality itself. Looking down at the muddy ruin of their enemy's hull, they understand a new and terrifying truth: the world is not merely a stage for survival, but a weapon waiting for an intelligence ruthless and desperate enough to wield it. This act of engineering, born of hunger and fear, is a monumental leap. It is the first whisper of the dam, the aqueduct, the fortress. It is the moment a hominid brain, trapped in a fragile body, realized it could command the awesome, impersonal power of the planet. This single, brutal event, lost to the grand narrative of paleontology, is more than a successful hunt. It is the dawn of a new kind of power, a cognitive coup d'etat on the brutal empire of the dinosaurs. And as we trace the long, winding path of our own ascent, we must ask, is our mastery over the planet born from a divine spark of creation, or from the desperate, world-breaking gambles of ancestors who learned to drown their monsters? For in the deep silence of a forgotten age, we find the blueprint of our own audacity. But the stench of death on the water travels far, and awakens older, larger appetites.